Hi guys, welcome back to ladensercrochets. If you're new here, you're welcome. Kindly subscribe and join the family. My name is Liz. In this tutorial, we're making this sweater top using the V-stitch. This is a very simple stitch and the pattern is also quite simple. I was done with this in like 10 hours. I hope you're going to enjoy it. If you do, don't forget to leave a like, comment, share and subscribe. Grab your materials and let's get into the tutorial. We are working with the usual yarn, the Winter King in jungle green, a medium weight yarn. The yarn is 100% acrylic and it's a 4-ply yarn. Then we're going to use 2 hooks. I have my 4mm crochet hook and the 2.5mm crochet hook. Then we're going to need a pair of scissors, a darning needle, stitch markers and a measuring tape. Grab your yarn and the 4mm crochet hook. That is what we're going to use to work the main part of the sweater. We begin with a slip knot. So make your slip knot and then we're going to chain 4. That is 1, 2, 3 and 4. Pull out the hook and insert it in the first chain that we've done. Then put it back into the 4th chain and continue chaining. The reason we're doing this is to ensure that our chain is not twisted. Then we're going to go on, keep on chaining until we get a chain that is long enough to fit on our bust. And this is when it is not stretched at all. So I'm going to make a chain of 120 chains. Make sure that your chain is a multiple of 3 or a number that is divisible by 3. So that could be 90, could be 93, 96, and so on. So I'm going to chain 120 and then come back. The size of my sweater is medium. And so if you're working a size small, you're going to chain between 90 to 100 and something. Make sure that the chain is a multiple of 3. Then if you're making it in medium size, then you're going to chain 120. If you want a large size, you can go up to 150 and so on. Once you get your chain ready, you're going to measure it. My bust measurement is 36. When divided by 2, that's 18. But then I've chained up to 21. And this is without stretching. As you can see, I should be at 18, but I've added like 3 inches to get me to 21, which is like a bust of 42. And because it's a sweater, I don't want it tight. I'm going to work with that allowance. Now, we're going to join at the end to connect that round by a slip knot like that. Then we're going to chain 1, go back into that very first chain and place a single crochet. And as I do the single crochets, I'm going to work over the end. Then into the next chain, do a single crochet. Do a single crochet into the chain that follows. Then into the next chain. And I'm going to place 1 single crochet into every chain all the way around. And this will be our round 1. Each of the chains will get 1 single crochet. So that means if you've started with 120 chains, you should have 120 single crochets. If you've started with 90, you should have 90 single crochets. If you've started with 99, you should have 99 single crochets and so on. So keep going with 1 single crochet throughout that chain. Once we've done the last single crochet, we're going to slip stitch onto the first single crochet to complete that round. Then we're going to chain 3 to begin round 2 and turn. When we turn, we start into that very first stitch, yarn over, insert your hook into that same stitch where the chain is and do a double crochet, that is, to make a V-stitch. Then we're going to yarn over, skip 2 stitches, then work a double crochet into the 3rd stitch. Chain 1 back into that stitch with another double crochet. And that's the second V-stitch. Yarn over, skip 2 stitches, work into the 3rd one, double crochet, chain 1, another double crochet into the same stitch to make a third V stitch, yarn over, skip 2 into the third stitch, work a double crochet, chain 1, another double crochet, yarn over, skip 2, double crochet V stitch, and then we're going to place 1 double crochet V stitch into every third stitch. That is, we make sure that there's a gap in between with 2 skipped stitches. So now just keep going with this pattern, and I'll meet you at the end to show you how to complete row 1. That is row 1 of the V stitch. I'm coming towards the end of that first row, and I'm just placing my V stitch after skipping 2 stitches. So right here I skip, then I do my V stitch, and at the end I should have 2 stitches remaining. That is, if my stitch count was correct, then we're going to slip stitch onto the chain 2 to complete that first row or the first round. So do your slip stitch right there. Then again we're going to slip stitch into, so this is row 1 done. So the next slip stitch is going to be in between the 2 double crochets. Then we're going to chain 3 and back into that gap with a double crochet, and then we're going to skip over to the next chain 1 gap where we have the V stitch and do another V stitch. So we're working in rounds. As you can see, we're not going to be turning anymore from this point. So chain 1, a V stitch, another double crochet, that is, we skip over to the next V stitch and continue all the way around. So V stitch, that is double crochet, chain 1, another double crochet into the same chain 1 gap. Repeat the pattern to the end of round 2. I'm placing my last V stitch, and then I'll complete round 2 by doing a slip stitch onto the chain 2, then another slip stitch in between the 2 double crochets at the beginning, then I'll chain 3 back into that gap with a double crochet to make the V stitch, then a V stitch on top of the next V stitch, then another V stitch into the next V stitch, that is a double crochet, chain 1, another double crochet into the same stitch. Then we go on, work round 3 the same way we've worked round 2, just 1 V stitch on top of the previous V stitch. When you get to the end, we're going to do the slip stitch onto the chain 2, and I'll meet you at the end of round 3. I'm coming to the end of round 3, and I'm just doing the slip stitch right there and the second slip stitch, then the chain 3 to begin round 4, then a double crochet into the same stitch, then a double crochet into the V stitch, chain 1, another double crochet to create another V stitch on top of the previous V stitch, then V stitch into the next V stitch. And this is a pattern that we're going to repeat, so all the other rounds will be the same as round 2, and we're going to repeat this until we get the length from the waist up to the armpits. So at this point I'm going to show you the length that I'm at, and then we're going to work until we get to our desired length, and the length should be measured without stretching. I'm at a length of around 3 inches now, and I'll keep going till I get to a length of about 15 or thereabout, and then I'll get back. I've done a total of 21 rows, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20. Actually 20 rows. I've done a total of 20 rows, and that gets me to a length of, let's confirm the length without stretching. That's a length of almost 12 inches. I was going for 12 and I'd measured and gotten to 12, so that is 12 inches. When we do the ribbon at the bottom part, we're going to get to about 15 inches, so an extension of like 3 inches. And now we're going to divide our top, our sweater, into 2 equal parts so that we can create the armholes. Because for us to do that, we have to work the front part and the back part separately. So what you need to do is identify that point where you've finished the round, and then you're going to get the exact middle on the other side. Get your stitch marker and mark that point. You can do this by counting your stitches, or you can just align your work like this and then mark that opposite side of the sweater, and that is the exact middle. So now we're going to begin working the 2 panels separately, and we're going to start from that point by chaining 3 and working a V-stitch all the way till we get to the stitch marker. So begin in that very first stitch and place a double crochet. Then we go into the next V-stitch and place a second V-stitch. Then we're going to place a third V-stitch and repeat to the end. I'll meet you at the end of this row. This is going to be a row. We've been working rounds, but then we're going to work rows from this point because we're going to be turning at the end. Once we get to the stitch marker, we're just going to take it out and place a V-stitch into that V-stitch where the stitch marker was. So do your V-stitch, and we're done with this side. We're not going to continue round. So now we're going to chain 3 and turn. As you can see, we are working one side separately, then we're going to go on and work the other side. So from here, I'm going to chain 3 and turn to begin row 2 of the extension part of the sweater. So now turn, begin with that V-stitch, place a double crochet into the chain 1 gap, then place a V-stitch into the next V-stitch and repeat to the end. I'll meet you at the end of row 2. I'm in the last V-stitch, which is the end of row 2, and I'm going to place a V-stitch into it. Then I'll chain 3 and turn to begin row 3. And now we want to do this extension until we get 9 inches. An adult armhole is between 7 to 9 inches, so you can do until you get to 7 or 9. Right now I'm at 3. I want to go up to 9. You can work the extension up to 7 inches or 8 inches or 9 inches depending on the size of your arm. So keep going with the repeat rows, and I'll meet you once I get my extension on the upper part of the sweater. After a total of 12 rows, I'm at 7 inches. I'd mentioned that I'm going to work up to 9, but then I'm going to work up to 7, and then after that I'll do an extension to get to 9. Now to do that, we're going to measure out 7 inches from one side of our sweater and then mark. Then we're going to count the number of V-stitches. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8. And then I'm going to count on the other side. I'm getting 16 V-stitches on the other side. So we're going to take the 16 divided by 2, and that should give me 8. So on this side, I should have 8 V-stitches and 8 V-stitches on the other side. So that in the middle, we also have 8. I've gotten stitch markers and I've counted 8 on one side, 8 on the other side, and I've marked. So we have 8 V-stitches on one side, 8 V-stitches on the other side. Then we have the middle part, and I want the middle part to be 7 inches. But then when I measure this, I'm getting to 8 inches. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move the stitch markers on both sides, that is one step on each side. So I'll get the stitch marker on this side, I'll move it one step towards the inner part of the sweater, and then I'll get the other stitch mark on the other side, and then I'll move it another step towards the middle of the sweater so that I can get the 7 inches. I'm measuring without stretching, so that means this will be more than 7. It is definitely more than 7 inches. But then you want to make sure that both sides are balanced. So if you've counted 9 V stitches on the other side should also be 9. If it's 10, the other side should also be 10. So now chain 3, sorry, and do the V stitch at the beginning. Then we're going to place 1 V stitch till we get to the point where the stitch marker is. So 1 V stitch into every V stitch. I hope that has made sense. So keep going until you get to the stitch marker. And when we get to the stitch marker, that will be the end of this row, which is our row 12. So now I'm just working the V stitches heading towards the middle of the sweater until I get to my first stitch marker, and that is where I'm going to stop with this row. Then I'll do the next 2 rows. So at the stitch marker, I'll just place a V stitch, that is a double crochet, chain 1, another double crochet, and we are done. And then we're going to chain 3 and turn to begin row 13. We're going to work row 13, and then we're also going to work row 14. So let me do the 2 remaining rows, then I'll be back to show you how to work the other part of the sweater. Right here, I'm done with the 3 rows extension, and when I measure from that point up to the part where we separated the 2 panels, at 9 inches, which is what I was looking for. And so I'm done with that point. I'll just chain 1 and cut off the yarn. Cut off the yarn, pull it through, and fasten. And now we are done with that shoulder part on one side. So we're going to go onto the other side and do the same thing. I'm just confirming my V stitches to make sure that they are the same on both sides. So now I'm going to begin from right there where the second stitch marker is. I'll start with a slip knot, and then I'll do a slip stitch and then chain 3, the first chain to fasten. Then I'm going to chain 3, 1, 2 and 3, remove the stitch marker because we don't need it anymore. Then go back into that stitch with a double crochet. Then we're going to go on to the next V stitch and work a V stitch, and then we're going to repeat to the end of the row, and I'm going to work a total of 3 rows just like I've done with the other side. So let me work the 3 rows and then come back. I'm done with the 3 rows extension on that other side, and this is what we have so far. And that extension that we've done represents our front side of the sweater, and so we're going to work the back side. I've done a total of 14 rows, and so we're going to connect the yarn from the point where we have the edge of the other side, the edge of the front side. We're going to connect our yarn right there in the same V stitch, and then we're going to chain 3 at that point. We are working the back side of the sweater now. Go back with a double crochet, then work a V stitch until you get to the other edge of the front side. This is the back side, so we are working until we get to the edge of the front side where we separated the 2 sweaters. So I'll meet you there and show you what to do next. Our last V stitch should be right there where we have the first or the last V stitch of the other panel or of the other side of the sweater, and we are done. And at this point we're going to chain 3 and turn to begin the second row. And like I've mentioned, I've done a total of 14 rows. Is it 14? Let's confirm. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. They're actually 13 rows. So I'll work until I have 12 rows, because for the back panel, or for the back part of the sweater, I'll only have 1 row extension. For the front part, I had 3 rows. For the back part, I'll have just 1. I'll keep going till I get the 12 rows and then come back and show you how to do that last row of the front panel, the back panel, that is. This is after my 12 rows, and we're going to do that 1 row extension, and we're going to do the same number of V stitches that we did, that is 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. So I'm going to do an extension with 1 row, chain 3 and turn, and I'm just going to do 9 V stitches, then cut off the yarn or connect. So do the V stitch at the beginning, that is 1, then we do a second V stitch, then we're going to do a third one, then we're going to do the fourth V stitch, that is 4, then we'll do 5, and then we're going to do 6, then we have 7, then 8, and the 9th V stitch, and we're done with that back part. So we're going to chain 1 and turn, and we're going to attach the shoulder parts. So we're going to start with the first double crochet, insert your hook into the first double crochet, and chain 2 at the beginning on the other side, and connect the 2 with a single crochet, go into the chain 1 gap and the chain 1 gap on the other side, connect with a single crochet, double crochet, and the double crochet on the other side, connect with a single crochet, get the double crochet on this side and the double crochet on the other side, connect with a single crochet, then the chain 1 and the chain 1 on the other side. Then next we are connecting double crochet and double crochet. Next we have the double crochet and the other double crochet, and then we have the chain 1 and the chain 1 on the other side. So we are just connecting the corresponding stitches till we get to the edge. So now just keep going on connecting the corresponding stitches with a single crochet to the end. I'm coming to the end, and right here I'm connecting the chain 1s with a single crochet, and finally I have the last 2 double crochets, that is the last double crochet on this side and the double crochet on the other side, single crochet there, then chain 1 and cut off the yarn. So we have that one shoulder completely done. So after chaining 1, we cut off the yarn, pull through and fasten. And now we're going to go to the other side of our sweater and do that 1 row extension. Start with a slip knot, and then we're going to count 9 V stitches. So that is 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 and 9. Insert our hook into the ninth and slip stitch, then chain 3. I'm just confirming to make sure that I've counted the right number of V stitches. Chain 3 from that point where we've reconnected the yarn, and we go back into that with a double crochet. Then we're going to work 1 V stitch into each of the remaining V stitches to the end, and then once we are done, we're going to connect the shoulders just like we've done on the other side. We're just doing this one row, and then when we get to the end, we connect the shoulder part of the sweater and make sure that all the corresponding stitches are well aligned while we are connecting. I'll meet you once I'm done with this row together with the connection on the shoulders so that we can work the sleeves. I have both of my shoulders joined, as you can see, and now I'm just going to weave in these ends just to reduce them before I start working the sleeves. I believe that you know how to weave in the ends, so you just get your darning needle, put the ends through, and then go inside the stitches, in between the stitches, go in with your darning needle, put it through, make sure that you weave it as much as you hide the ends as much as possible. Then we're going to pull the yarn through and cut off the ends that are going to remain. Once we're done weaving in the ends, we're going to turn our sweater to the right side, and now we are ready to work the sleeves. I went on to attach one of the sleeves, and I'm just going to quickly show you how to work the other sleeve and then attach it. Get the yarn and the hook and start with a slip knot and then a chain of 60. So we're going to chain 1 2 3 and 4. Then 5, pull out the hook, insert it in the first stitch and back into the 5th stitch. Then I'll continue chaining until I get to 60. Make sure that your chain is a multiple of 3, and it can be between 60 to 75 depending on the size of your arm. So I'm just going to chain 60. I believe 60 is standard for almost everybody, or you can say between a size small to large can fit with the 60 chains. So let me do the 60 chains and then get back. After the 60 chains, we're just going to do a slip stitch just like we did with the main part of the sweater. Then we're going to chain 3 and then go back into that very first stitch with a double crochet to make a V stitch. Then we're going to yarn over, skip 2 chains and place a V stitch into the into the third chain. That is a double crochet, chain 1, another double crochet. Then we're going to yarn over, skip 2 chains, work into the third one, place a double crochet, chain 1, another double crochet into the same stitch. And now we're going to repeat this to the end, yarn over, skip 2 chains, make a V stitch. So repeat the V stitches until you get to the end of the round, and I'll meet you at the end of round 1 so that we can work round 2. I'm working my last V stitch, and then after that we're going to do a slip stitch onto the chain 2, a slip stitch in between the 2 double crochets, chain 3, a double crochet into the same V stitch, then we're going to do the V-stitches now. Now these rows are the same as the rows that we did on the sweater. We're just going to work them the same way. Rounds, actually, we are working rounds, and I'm going to work a total of 30 rounds to get me to the length of the sleeve that I want. So let me go on, work 30 rounds with the sleeve, and then I'll be back and show you how to connect it to the sweater. After 30 rows, this is what I have, and now I'm ready to connect my sleeve to the sweater. So now just chain one, and we're going to cut off the yarn, pull the yarn through, and fasten. So now we're going to get the sweater and now connect the sleeve. So grab your sweater, and you just want to make sure that your sweater is on the right side, and this right here is where your sleeve goes. So now turn the sweater to the wrong side like this. Do the same exact thing that I'm doing to make sure that you do not have any confusion. So you just getting the sleeve from the right side and turning it to the wrong side. Then we're going to get stitch markers and align our work. But I want to make sure that the point where I've cut off the yarn is aligned with the armpits of the sweater, and then I'll get stitch markers and then align, and I'm going to use a darning needle to connect the two pieces together. So right here I'm just tying these two ends together. So instead of marking with a stitch marker right there, I'll mark by tying the two ends together, and now I'll get the stitch marker and mark on the other edge or on the other side. So on the shoulder part, I'll mark with a stitch marker. Then I'm going to get my darning needle, and then I'm going to use it to connect all the way around. So I'll put some yarn through it and make sure that the yarn is long enough to go all around the armhole. Then I'll cut it off, connect at the point where I'll start the connection at the point where I've tied the two ends together. So right there I'll just start sewing, and I'll get one end together with one end of the yarn that I've just connected and tie them together with a tight knot. Then I'll start sewing. And the sewing is very easy. This part you can do however you feel is comfortable for you. Now we just start weaving all the way around the armhole. So I'll go on weave all the way around, and my sleeve will be joined. Once I've joined up to the end, I'm just going to weave in that end, and then I'll weave the other ends, and after that I'll cut off the ones that remain, and the sleeve will be joined. So I'm just weaving in the remaining ends to make sure that they are well hidden. Once we've weaved in all the ends, we're just going to turn our sweater to the right side now, and we have both sleeves in place. So now we only have the ribbons on the wrist, the ribbon that goes to the neckline, and the ribbon that goes to the waistline. Those are the only things that are remaining. So next I'm going to show you how to do the ribbons and then attach them. I already have one of the wrist ribbons right here, so let me show you how to do a second one, because we're supposed to do two of these. I've also done the waist ribbon, and I've also done the ribbon for the neckline. To work the ribbons, we're going to switch to the 2.5 millimeter crochet hook, and we're going to start with a slip knot as usual. So begin with a slip knot, and once you do the slip knot, you're going to chain 10. Chain 10 if you're working a ribbon for the wrist and the waistband. So I'm going to work my 10 chains. Once I have the 10 chains ready, I'll hold the 10th and chain one more. Go into the 10th and pull up a loop to get 2 loops. Yarn over, pull through 2 to complete a single crochet. Then I'm going to place a single crochet into the next chain, a single crochet into the chain that follows, and 1 single crochet into every chain for a total of 10 single crochets in the first row. So just go on, place your single crochets into each of the chains. This is my last single crochet right here. Then I'll chain 1 and turn to begin row 2. We're going to work in the back loops. So in that loop that is at the back, we do a single crochet. Then we're going to do a single crochet into the next back loop. The reason why we're doing the back loops is so that we can get a stretchy ribbon or something that stretches. Then we're going to place a single crochet in the back loop of this next stitch, in the back loop of the stitch that follows, and continue until we have a total of 9. Then the last stitch will be in both loops. So the 9th and then the 10th in both loops. So instead of working the back loop, we're going to work the 2 loops at the end. And this will only be happening on this side where we do not have the end. So chain 1 and turn, and row 3 will be a row of single crochets in the back loops of all the stitches, all the 10 stitches. So remember, when you're working in the even rows, at the end of each of the even rows, we're going to have the last stitch being in the both loops. Then in the odd rows, all the back loops will get 1 single crochet. So I'm coming to the end of row 3, and I'm just placing 1 single crochet into the back loop of every stitch, and that is the end. Chain 1 and turn to begin row 4. We begin row 4 in the back loop, and we're going to do a total of 9 single crochets in the back loop. Then we're going to have both loops in the last stitch. So just keep going with the single crochets, 1 single crochet into each of the back loops of the stitches for a total of 9. Then in the last stitch, work in the both loops. As you can see, we want to make sure that the end is a bit tight. Then we're going to have row 5 in the back loop of every stitch, because this is an odd row. Then row 6 will have 9 stitches in the back loop. Then the 10th stitch will be in the both loops. So this is the end of row 5 in the back loop. Then chain 1 and turn, begin row 6, work a total of 9 stitches in the back loops. Then the 10th one will be in the both loops. So now keep going until you have a ribbon that is able to fit through your wrists. I'm going to do a total of 28 rows. the number of rows that you're going to work should be an even number. So make sure that you work an even number of rows. I'll be back once I have my 28 rows. This is after my 28 rows, and so I'm going to chain one and now connect the two edges together. So bring the two ends together and we're going to work both loops. So into the both loops on either side in the first stitch, connect with a single crochet. Then we're going to work the second stitch and the second stitch on the other side, connect with a single crochet, and we're going to connect for a total of the 10 stitches. Make sure that you're connecting, you're working the both loops of each of the stitches, you're working the both loops of each of the stitches, that is. So let me keep going until I get until I've connected my 10 stitches. I'm connecting the last stitches right now, and I'll just do the single crochet, then I'll chain one, and I'm going to leave a long end that I'm going to use to connect the ribbon to the main part of the sweater. Then I'll pull through, and we are done with the second ribbon for the sleeve. So we're just going to work the waist ribbon the same way. The only difference is the number of rows that we're going to work. For the waist ribbon, I'll do a total of 100 rows. You can do 100, 110. Just make sure that your rows are even. It's an even number. So when I try my wristbands, they're able to go through my arm onto the wrist, and it fits perfectly. So now let's go on and attach them to the sweater. I have my waistband ribbon right here, which is a length of, you want to make sure that it stretches so that it's able to fit your waist measurements. And when mine stretches, it goes up to 16, and my waist measurement is 30, which should be 15, and 16 is a good allowance. Then I have the neckline ribbon, which should stretch until it get to our head circumference. My head circumference is 22, and this stretches up to 12, which is 24, which is a good allowance also. So for the neckline, as you can see, I did 5 stitches instead of 10. So now let's connect the ribbons to the sweater, beginning with the, make sure that you're doing this on the right, on the wrong side of your sweater, starting with the waistband, the wristband, sorry. We're starting with the wristband, and we're just going to get the ribbon, and then make sure that you get the exact middle of the ribbon and connect it with the exact middle of the sleeve, like this. I hope this is better if you understand this better when you just watch, because explaining sometimes is a bit hard or complicated. It's easier to watch than to listen to what I'm saying. So now just watch and learn. So this is how I attach my ribbon. As you can see, that is the exact point where I ended my stitches. And then I'm going to get other stitch markers, and I'm going to divide my ribbon like this into half, and on the sleeve into half. As you can see, get the stitch marker and mark. When you have the markings this way, then it gets very easy to align the work. So we are marking on this side, and we're going to get another stitch marker and mark on the opposite side. And then after marking, now we can start sewing the band to the sleeve. So now just weave or just sew, and this is how I go about it. So just watch and learn. So once you're done with this wristband, you're just going to attach the other one. Then we'll do the same thing for the waistband and the same thing for for the neckline. At this point, I'm done with the joining of the wristband, as you can see, and I'm just going to weave in the ends that have remained right there. I'll weave in the ends, then I'll go on attach the other wristbands. I'm done attaching all the ribbons on the sweater, and this is what we have. So now we're just going to turn the sweater to the right side, and we are done. We are done with the sweater. Thank you so much if you stuck around to the end of the tutorial. If you've enjoyed the tutorial, kindly leave a like, a comment, share, subscribe if you're not subscribed, and see you in the next tutorial. Bye.